Okay. So you just please, if you're not speaking, you would help me to mute, or I do it from here. You can help me to mute, and then if you have any question, definitely I would um ask you to unmute your mic, and then you can go ahead to speak.
All right, no
Okay.
problem.
So
I've done that.
yeah, yeah. So first off, I want to take this to like the very beginning, and how it will look like on the end. So let me see. So obviously, once you've signed up for the course, you should most likely see it looking like something like this. Okay, it's opening on the page. So in the course of this training, we're going to be working with about 9 modules, right? So we'll start with the introduction to ethical hacking, which we will do today. Then we'll move on to network discovery and scanning, and vulnerability analysis and system hacking, malware and network threats, human-centric attacks, session and perimeters breaches, web-based exploits, wireless, mobile, and emerging platforms, then cloud security and advanced topics. So these are the 9 modules we're going to cover during the course of our interactions together. So, yeah, specifically, Mr. Chizoba, some of the things that you're looking for, I think you would even learn even more than those. But I want to also, well, however, let me also prepare your mind that this is actually an advanced class. So there's some things that we'll be working with, and then uh, on my end, I would already, presume that you've learned these things. So this is not a beginner's class, right? Uh, this is pretty much advanced. So I'm very much aware, not just you, but even those who will be probably watching us live on this stream as well would have seen. Of course, this is offensive security and adversary simulation. So like I said, we are starting today, and we'll start with the first module now. This is, how it will appear for you, just the first module, because that's what is published. And so by next week, you'll have your module 2 released, and then you'll have other modules as well. As time so pretty much introduction to ethical hacking, and then footprinting and reconnaissance is what we'll just look at. Um, you can engage with the discussion, and of course, this is graded. So every week you have sections like these that you have to come and then fulfill their requirements, right? Another thing that's important that I would like to state is, can I ask if you have a GitHub account, Mr. Chizowa? You have a GitHub account. Hello there, can you hear me? Hello there, can you hear me, sir? Can you hear me, Mr. Chizoba? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me now? I can hear
Okay,
you.
yes,
Can
I
you?
can hear you now. So, so do you have a GitHub account?
No, I haven't. I haven't gotten one.
Oh, you don't have a okay, you don't have a GitHub account. So, I want to suggest that you go and create a GitHub account. It's very important because some of the materials that you're going to be learning with would be taking, or you would have to interact with, the GitHub. So please try
Okay.
to create one. It's very, very much important. It also serves as
Okay.
more like a portfolio for you. Because everything that we'll be doing each week, I would expect you to also be uh logging your process, like documenting your process. That's the word. I would want you to also document your journey, rather, right? So please try to get a GitHub account. So basically, the introduction to ethical hacking page just introduces us to the course, right? What we are mainly focusing on this week is footprinting and reconnaissance. So when we talk about footprinting and reconnaissance, these are terminologies that maybe one time or the other you've probably heard, about these. So yeah, you know, and there's a learning material that would always be available every week for you, right? I try to make this as resourcefully packed as possible. So what that means is everything that you'll be needing for the week, you would always find it, within this space, which is your learning material. And we're supposed to use it even for this class. But I'm just going through or doing more like an housekeeping and everything that just you getting accustomed to the dashboard. So this is an LMS that we have integrated. So Canvas is actually an LMS that we use, to deliver our trainings. So I'm just doing a bit of housekeeping so that you're familiar with everything that you need to know about the LMS, right? So I just clicked on the learning material. So what it's supposed to do is it's supposed to give us a preview of the learning material, right? And as you can see, that's what is it's just taking some time to come up. But yeah, so finally it's here. So this is your copy, right? As a student, you have a copy of your learning material every week, right? And what it entails is it entails, like I said, it's resourcefully packed to give you a theoretical understanding of what we are doing, or what we're doing over the course of the next 9 weeks. All right, so for this week, we actually have topics like you understanding what it is or what the word offensive security is. You know, in cybersecurity, we have different niches here or different specializations. Now, um, the ethical hacking aspect actually falls under the offensive aspect, right? We also have the defensive aspect of security as well. But like I said, the ethical hacking and adversary simulation falls under the offensive security. And why do we say offensive? We're just saying offensive because it comes or it's a process that involves tactics, techniques, and procedures. Right. Offensive security is a process that entails tactics, techniques, and procedures. Right. Again, we are live streaming, so I want to keep everything within um educational context, right? And I hope you understand what I mean by that, right? I want to keep everything within an educational context. So even while we do some hands-on and then probably test for one or two things, we wouldn't be testing for uh, anything that is not within the scope of education. Do you understand what I'm saying? Um, I mean, I teach ethical hacking, right? I don't teach any other, type of hacking, maybe being a black hat or a malicious. I don't do that. I only teach ethical hacking and give you the knowledge, everything that you need. You know. So, yeah, what you do or make do with that knowledge, it's up to you, right? But for me, I fulfill the code of conduct for this profession, which is cybersecurity, and we must make sure that everything stays within the context of educational or education. So, like I said, there is tactics, technique and procedures. And let me tell you something, Mr. Okafor, for free. Look, every attack that you see on the internet that was successful, I mean, I'm saying every attack you've had that was successful today and that's on the internet has been published, they followed, it didn't just happen out of the blues. You get it didn't just okay, maybe something just out of the blues, boom, appeared and we got hacked. No, um, Mr. Okapo, you should know, and every other person streaming, that tactics, techniques, and procedures were actually in place for a successful attack to happen. So what does this mean? If I and Mr. Okafor today decides that we want to bring down or we want to hack, infiltrate a certain, organization's infrastructure, right, online, that's probably from their websites, stuff like that. We both have to sit down and plan out our tactics, techniques, and procedures, just as we are doing right now, right? So when you understand this, then it makes life easier for you as an ethical hacker. So you know that, oh, things don't just happen from the blue. Now you're thinking from an offensive perspective. So it will help you as well if for any reason you decide to also, become a defender in the future or to study defensive security. It will help you, give you, the understanding of how things work or how things operate. Can I confirm? Can you see my screen clearly? Let me make this full screen.
Yes, I can. I can. I'm following up.
Okay, that's great. That's great. So, again, we have categories of hackers, right? Some of these things I don't want to assume you already know, so I'll just touch them. I don't want to bore you. So, and I mean, any other person watching us online, but I also I don't want to adopt that dead by PowerPoint type of thing. No, I would make this as interesting as possible. So I wouldn't be reading word for word, but I will explain. So again, you have 1 week to like cover everything, right? So today's Monday. Um, that's why I always encourage that we have sessions like this, beginning of the week, which most of your assignments, I mean, not most, all of the assignments are due the following Sunday. So, before 12, a.m. on Monday, your assignments are due. So, you have that ample time, right? And that's why we'll come like this together, discuss one or two things, and then again, it's not just um, the theoretical aspects that you want to focus on. We also want to focus on the um, practical aspect as well. So, like I said, we have categories of hackers, and how they relate to adversary simulation. So we have black art, we have art, white art hackers, and sometimes in the middle we call people that are in the middle, between white and black, we call them gray hackers, right? So again, like I said, um, what you do with the knowledge that you gain from this course or our interaction determines the type of heart that we place or we ascribe to you. Now, so now looking at determining the type of art or color of hat you want to wear, the next thing that we look at is, oh, what are you thinking about? I want to be a white, or I want to wear the white art. The next question I would ask is, what's my mindset? What am I thinking about? So for you, I could ask you what hat do you want to wear? You could tell me you want to wear a black hat. The next thing that goes on within your mind is uh you know probably trying to already simulate what a black hat hacker would do, and to differentiate it so that it makes sense to you. A black hat hacker would take on activities, like we've said, it would come up with tactics, techniques, procedures to break things. And the same tactics, technique, and procedure would be used by a white hat hacker. But what differentiates them now is their mindset. And why I say so is a black hat hacker would refuse to report certain vulnerabilities and instead exploit them, whereas a white hat hacker would see or find vulnerabilities and report them so that an organization could do what? Could actually patch those vulnerabilities. Now, I've had instances, in the past where people come with their different mindsets and they want to learn, you know, offensive security, that's ethical hacking, but they want to learn hacking, right? And during the course of our interaction together, I'm able to shift their mindset from just being an hacker to being an ethical hacker. I don't know if that makes sense. They come with the mindset of I want to hack, but we are able to talk, interact, learn, share knowledge, and then eventually they end up being ethical hackers. There's a huge difference. Now, you might ask me, so what's there to gain if I an hacker and I report vulnerabilities? And I don't know, have you heard of the word bug bounty hunting, Mr. Okafor? Bug bounty hunting.
Yes, I have.
Yeah, good. Now, there are people who actually live off bug bounty. I can tell you that for free. People who live off bug bounty. Now, I just look at it. If I can live off bug bounty, it's been done before. It's not impossible. I also have, I personally, let me tell you a very interesting story. I personally have mentors who are already ahead of me in this field, in terms of not just even the theoretical knowledge, but even practicability, right? And some of them who are in the line of bug bounty, they tell us these things. The money that you think you can't make, you know, maybe from doing a 9 to 5 in cybersecurity, right? For instance, you're in 9 to 5 in cybersecurity, you might probably not be able to make 200,000 in a year. Okay, let's say $200,000. That's what I'm saying, right? In a year. So you think you can make that? In bulk bounty, you can actually make that in 6 months. With bulk bounty hunting, you can make that in 6 months. Now, I'm not saying these to just blow ons, right? I'm saying real events, right? I personally haven't earned up to 200,000 in a year, but I'm saying it's not impossible, right? Because I'll be honest with you, I don't take bug bounty as my 9 to 5, but I can tell you for free, Mr. Chizoba, there's some persons who are in urgent need of, let's say, oh, I need $300, and I'm not joking. I need $200 right now, or I need $150 right now. They're putting the practical skills you'll be learning in the course of this, this program. They are able to go sit on their system, find a vulnerability or work, and then get that money almost instantaneously. I mean, I hope you know that you're not just going to sit and say, oh, okay, today I want to do this, and then because of course, team behind these bounties, they will verify, they will review the vulnerabilities you find, they will make sure that, and of course, it's also that field of bug bounty is also like, I don't want to use the word competition, but it's a race. So you have to report vulnerabilities that someone hasn't reported so that you can actually earn, get reward. But these are things that are happening. I'm telling you real life scenarios, and I have my reasons for, going or doing this background. Believe me, from next week, we won't be saying so much of all this, overview of this field. But I'm just saying, just to prepare your mind, right? I just want to get your mind in the right direction. And because of course it would help you, a lot of opportunities will come out from this. So again, with everything I've said or everything I've just painted to you, I think I've been able to put you through what goes on in the mind of either a white hat hacker or a black hat hacker. Now the next thing we want to now look at is hacking methodologies and frameworks in adversary simulation. Just like every other thing in the life, there are laws and processes to things. Now, what this means is that if I want to fetch water, or okay, let me not use that's very simple, or that let me say if I want to sew, or I want to wear a new clothes, or I want to sew a new clothes, right? The first thing that I do, that's the method that I do in seeing this come to life, is I have to walk up to the tailor. And the tailor doesn't just look at me and says, "Oh, okay, don't worry, I've seen you, I'll get your clothes." And no, he comes up with his tape rule, and then he measures me. He gets my measurements. And then what does he do after that? He cuts the clothes. And then before finally sitting down on the machine to sew. That's like, in this case, let's the scenario I just gave. In this case, if we want to read it with what we have on our screen, we will say what? We'll say tailor or tailoring methodologies and frameworks in fashion designing. I hope that makes sense. So I'm trying to break this down so that you see the processes, or the law, or the regulations that guides actions when it comes to offensive security. This is a very, very sensitive course. That's why I'm taking my time to, explain and break these things down. It's a very sensitive course, because the knowledge you get, even from today's class, you can go out there and do something, and you get Interpol looking for you everywhere, or DSS or EFCC. I'm telling you this for free, just from today's class. You watch and see. So I'm carefully taking my time to explain these things, so there are laws, regulations, rules, procedures, processes to these things, and you follow them, the better for you. Right. So, hacking methodologies, like I said, we have a framework that helps or guides us with our tactics, techniques, and procedures. So we don't just come up with these procedures or tactics from the blues or from our mind, right? We have a framework that guides us towards this. Let me see if I can pull that up for you. So this is the framework. Now, I always encourage my mentees, right, Mr. Chizoba, because I'll consider you not just a colleague, but also a mentee now. Um, I do something, right? I give research to my mentees. Now, it's up to you to not expect Mr. AY, which is myself, to spoon feed you. For instance, I've shown you this website. Our class is currently, recorded and live streamed on YouTube, so it means you can always come back to visit or look at what we've done. So I put out these resources out there for you. So I expect my, mentees to go and, read more, ponder on, do further research, and then even bring your questions back to me. Now, I can also tell you for sure and confirm to you that everything that I do today, every process that I'm trying or helping you to go through or pass through today, I've been there. So I understand the 100%. I hope what I'm saying makes sense. Everything, if I'm asking you to take on an exercise, you can just accept it for free, that I've actually myself undergone that exercise. And even if I haven't, I've done something very similar that I can guide you in case you have any difficulty in what you're doing. Right. I hope that makes sense. So what am I trying to say? I would put out the resources out there for you. I want you to do, don't expect Mr. A to feed you. Go do your further research, but be 100% certain, or I can ascertain you 100% that any questions you have, as long as it's within cybersecurity's domain, there's an answer, and I will do my best to also find answers for you. So that's that. So like I said, this is the framework. I don't know if this page is successful. Okay, still coming up, but that's the framework. Just 1 second, please. Okay, so um I'm trying to get these. Let me see. It's still, but that's the framework. Let me do something. Let me just put this, because I don't know. maybe you're joining me with your systems. So I'll put this in the chat box. Then you can, open it or load it up in a new tab, right? And then I'll explain the things that you will see there, for you. So that is a framework that, as an ethical hacker, you want to always be familiar with, right? I've spent time on that framework. So, like I said, ask me any questions regarding that, right? But I need you to do the homework. Uh, the best way that I've found to learn effectively is the DIY process or the DIY technique, which is doing it yourself, right? Right now, I could pull up, the website and then just explain. But when you go ahead, copy and paste it in your own web browser, look at it, and you're doing it yourself, you are learning even much more faster, right? So that's what I want you to actually do as well. Okay, so this is a continuation on that, I think, or a duplicate rather. So, uh, looking at, the methodologies, we have the attack merger framework. Now we also have the, I mean, if we're going to have attack, we should have defense, right? So we also have the merger defense, right? Well, of course, what we are looking at here is what we're looking at the offensive aspect of security, right? So not defensive aspect. But just for you to know, right? It's just, added knowledge. You can look at, you can find it here. So this is the mitre different, or the different aspect, for the framework, right? So let's go back to the slide. So now, on legal and ethical boundaries of hacking, like I've said earlier, right, Mr. Chizoba, we have um, legal and ethical boundaries. We have things that, as professionals, we call them ROE. They are called rules of engagement, right? Everything that we do within this field, we must follow. Again, if you go to any bug bounty website, you would find some of these terminologies or these terms there, right? Again, you find terms like scope, so which means please stay within the scope, or don't, get involved within the scope. These types of things, So there are boundaries that you mustn't cross. It's not a case of you trying to debate it. It's just what it is, because if you don't follow it, there are consequences. Like I said, in a land where there's no law, no rule, then anything could be accepted. So, but we have legal boundaries, rules that guides our engagement in this field, right? So, one thing very important is what staying within the guidelines uh of this field, right? It's very, very important. You must respect these boundaries, and of course, trust is something that is, essential. Even a potential employee would want to be sure that you've adhered to legal and or ethical boundaries, in your past work of, performing ethical hacking or things like, penetration testing and vulnerability assessments. So for them to be able to trust you, because if you haven't, abided or, stayed within the ROE of your past work, how can they trust you that you will do the same, or that you will do now in the case of their own system? So that's why you always want to, I'll just stay within the, boundaries of these fields, just to be on the safe side. And again, you don't want Interpol, because it's very easy if you don't do things right. It's very easy for Interpol to be on your neck. It's very easy for DSS to, start looking out for you. And some of these things people take with levity, right? I mean, please don't. I don't want it. I don't want a situation where any of my mentees or anyone that I know is being hunted for by either the police or DSS or Interpol or CIA for something that, you could have easily avoided, right? So that's that about that, right? So now, remember we've spoken about this term earlier. That's the tactics, techniques, and procedures. We call them for short TTPs, right? Now, these are just the steps. So, like I said, I want to sew a cloth. What I do is I walk to a fashion designing store. I get to meet the tailor. It takes up the measuring tape. It measures me. The, the clothes gets cut and then you finally sewn. That's a process. Now, okay, I know everyone in this class knows Shei Vodi. Am I right? If you know Shei Vodi, just give me an emoji reaction. Shei Vodi. Anyone? Or you can actually unmute your mic to tell me you know him if you do. Okay, Mr. Coyote knows Shei Vodi. So no one can say as good as Shei Vodi is. He will just lie down on his bed and just say abracadabra, and then one design will just come out from somewhere and clothes soon. It's not possible. It's not possible, right? What does he have to do if he wants to get the best material, maybe or a clothes to deliver probably to maybe the president or a governor or even maybe myself? He must measure, he must cut the clothes, he must sit the clothes on the machine and then sew. That's the process. So the same thing applies to offensive security. You must engage yourself in certain processes or certain steps, tactics, techniques, procedures for you to actually be successful at an attack, right? So again, remember that, right? What we are doing, what we are studying this week is introduction to ethical hacking and then footprinting and reconnaissance. So we're still the slide actually covers introduction to ethical hacking. So that's why we're still even on ethical hacking, right? So again, like I said, um, some of these tactics, techniques, and procedures are guided by frameworks, right? Of course, from what we have out there, different institutions has their separate regulatory bodies. For instance, FISMA is FISMA deals with things that are related to, I think, online transactions. I think we also have PCI DSS within the financial. We also have EPA, which is HIPAA, which is for the health sector. We have GDPR for data, and so we have those regulatory bodies that guides the methodologies, right? Again, um, some of the things you find in the introductory slides are just trying to get your mindset prepared, right? They're trying to get you psyched, properly psyched, right, for this course, right? Okay, so if you're not speaking, please just do us a favor by muting yourself. If you're not speaking, please just mute yourself, right? So that we can have a clear production. I don't think I mentioned this for those who joined us. Okay, Mr. Koide joined us. Mr. Kodri is here as well. I think Mr. Ayodele also joined us earlier. I don't know if he's still here with us. You probably join us back. Okay, so we are having this streamed on YouTube. So let's have a clear production. If you're not speaking, just please mute your mic. Okay, so offensive security versus penetration testing. This is a very interesting one. Now, what's the difference between these two? Like I've said, right? Well, first off, let's look at it. In penetration testing, right? In penetration testing, what happens? The success is measured by the number of vulnerabilities that we find, right, and their severity. While in offensive security, the success is measured by the ability to achieve mission objectives, such as what extracting sensitive data, maintaining long-term persistence without being detected. Right. Now, that's the difference. So for penetration testing, we're actually looking for something. We are looking for vulnerabilities, like I said earlier, and we measure this vulnerability by their severity. So that means, and of course, you understand we have the ranking for severity. We have low, we have medium, and we have high, right? So we measure that. So that's for penetration testing. Now, for offensive security, again, this is completely different. Here we are measuring our success by what? By the objective that we set as a mission, either to extract sensitive data, maintaining long-term persistence without being noticed. Now, very important, the latter, which is offensive security, focuses more on resilience testing. assessing the effectiveness of monitoring detection and response capabilities. So what that means is I could say, Mr. Chizoba, I want to give you a contract of testing Cyber Sentinel's website, right? As a penetration tester that you are. Now, what do? You get your tools, you spawn them up, and then you start testing for what? For vulnerabilities. Now, how I measure your success is by the vulnerabilities that you find and their severity level. So you could find, let's say, you could find a vulnerability that is, let's say, with invalid parameters injection, meaning, okay, let's say there is no sensitive or sanitization, be or within our script that was written. It could be in the major languages that, of course, most websites are written HTML. It could be maybe an injection vulnerability, or maybe we have our website connected to an API that uses the database, and it could be a vulnerability that is associated with that database. So it could be SQL, it could be, so those types of things, right? So when you find a vulnerability there and we measure it, this is a high vulnerability, or this is the severity of this vulnerability is high. That's the right way to put it, right? The severity of this vulnerability is high, meaning that if this vulnerability falls into the hands of a malicious uh, intended or intent hacker, they could actually do something that we don't want with such vulnerabilities, right? They could find it and refuse to report it, and then instead of patching it, exploit it. That's the difference, as Mr. Chizoba has taken on that duty as a penetration tester, right? Now, for the latter, which is offensive security, we are looking at, okay, Mr. Chizoba, our security team have put together very effective monitoring techniques, detection techniques, and response capabilities. We now want you to offensively, right? We want to offensively proceed to testing or assessing our networks. So what does that mean? That means that you are now consciously, okay, or you start to think. Now this affects your mindset and your psychology. If I was a defender, what would I do? And that's why defenders in the house would definitely find this course very interesting. You start thinking, what do I do? Okay, that means they would have set password complexity. Okay, I need to start looking at password attacks. The password complexity would be very high. Or you start looking at, okay, that means they would have a password age. The password would expire. You start looking at things that you can do to to beat or to overcome the effectiveness of strategies already put in place to monitor, to detect, and to respond to an incident. Let's say you know a breach, for instance. So that's the difference between pen testing and the offensive security. If that made sense, please can you just respond to me with an emoji, or you unmute your mic to let me know. Does that make sense? Okay, that makes sense. Okay, great, Mr. Chizoba. Okay, let's proceed. Let's proceed. So that's the difference. So again, okay, legal. Okay, so there we just kind of had like a just additions, to the legal and ethical considerations in offensive security. We looked at the legal and we looked at the legal and or the what's it called? The legal boundaries for hacking, right? So this is for what? This is the legal boundaries for offensive security, right? So please again take some time to go through these material and then learn them. Now, when we get to now, this is like proper right now. What we've concluded is the introductory aspects of offensive security, right? So now let's get to offensive security and adversary simulation proper now, right? The first thing, or we start with introduction, or we start with rather footprinting and reconnaissance. Well, the slide says introduction, footprinting and reconnaissance because it wants to give us a theoretical understanding of that. Now, what is footprinting and reconnaissance? Footprinting and reconnaissance are the foundational phases of any offensive security engagement. Like I said, if you want to take some courses within cyber sentinel, or we usually encourage you please take some preliminary courses or some foundational courses like the CV 800 fundamentals and principles of information security. Why are we doing this? It's not because we want you to spend, let's say, the courses for 8 weeks. It's not because we just want you to sit for 8 weeks learning, nothing. No, we want to prepare you for further engagement within the field. Okay, so that, anyways, I believe we all got that and we understood that. So the key purpose of this stage, footprinting and reconnaissance, is that it helps us to gather quality intelligence or quality information. Now, the quality of intelligence that we gather. Now, when I say intelligence, please, like I said, this is an advanced class, right? So I'll be speaking some things, and I expect that we catch up with it, right? When I say intelligence, yeah, I mean a lot of things. Right? I mean data, I mean reports, I mean logs. That's what I'm trying to say. You get it? So the quality of intelligence that you gather here, it directly determines the precision and the success of the subsequent penetration testing or red teaming phases you will engage with. I hope that makes sense. That is why the footprinting and reconnaissance is very, very important. This is like, you probably maybe you've seen in a movie or you've heard in a movie or you've watched, you hear the term recon. Ask you, what are you doing? Say, I'm performing recon. What they are simply saying is, I'm gathering information. I'm gathering useful information, right? Informations that can help me to do what? To create the proper intelligence that would give me higher chances at success, during either my pen testing or let's say, even the offensive security engagements, things like that. That's what we do, when it comes to recon and footprinting, right? Okay. Now, in that stage of reconnaissance or recon, right? If we want to, call it for short, we have two types of recon or reconnaissance. We have the passive reconnaissance and we have the active reconnaissance. Now, when we talk about passive, just as the name implies, we do these things passively. We're not actively engaging with the target. We're just passively performing our reconnaissance, right? When we talk about active reconnaissance, we are now in this phase, we are actively touching the target, right? We are actively touching the target. We are trying to gather information. So, for instance, it's like this. For passive reconnaissance, I will use the same scenario. I want to get information about Mr. Sheyi Vodi, right? I want to know how does he so. Excuse me. Who ask how does, or what are the secrets to how he simply gather information about that. What I can do is I can get, now I'm saying passively, I can get a cloth, one of the clothes that Mr. Shea Body has sewn. Right. There used to be this popular guy before I started hearing Shea Body. What's his name? I think he's this AY's brother. That's Yomi Casual, right? Now I want to know how he has finesse on his clothes. What do I do? I could get passive. Now I'm doing passive recon. I could get one of these natives that he is sewn, and I do what? I decide to look at how he sews it. I put the clothes down. I look at the finesse. I look at how straight the lines is sewing her. I look at the stitches, how well stitched they are. Right. That's me passively trying to understand the secrets behind Shei for this sewing. I could even decide to cut the mat. When I say cut, I don't mean like just like damage the material, but like losing the material. Like, definitely, these materials are sewn together, so I could loosen them to see, okay, this is how it cuts it. This is how so I'm passively trying to understand things. Now, when it comes to active, if I want to do the same thing actively, what would I do? I will walk up to Shea Vodi himself and ask him some questions or be under his tutelage for a period of time. That's me actively understanding his technique. Does that make sense? So now when this applies to security, passive reconnaissance, okay, I want to do a passive recon on, let's say, any website out there. I could passively use some of these tools that are listed, right? The Avesta, Multigo, Spiderfoot. Some of these things would engage with them, so don't worry about them now, right? Just let's understand these points first. Right. So I could use these tools to gather passive information, right? Now, when it comes to the active reconnaissance on the same infrastructure, I'm now interacting directly with the infrastructure. I'm not using a tool. Yes, I could still use tools, like for instance, uh, let's say, okay, I think uh, there's an error on this website. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I'm back. I'll just resume streaming and oh, okay. So it's continuing. All right, great. Um, since we're streaming, we don't need to record the class, right? So you can always go. Even I myself, I would like to go back to YouTube and then learn some things again. So yeah, like I said, on active reconnaissance, right? So I wanted to us to do something, right? So let's say for instance, let's look at which which one of these tools will I use? So let me use Netcrafts. Let me use Netcrafts. Now, what I want to do is just what is known as passive reconnaissance, right? Remember, we're discussing passive and active reconnaissance, right? Okay, good. So, if you haven't had or been familiar with Netcraft, this is a good time to, right? It's a tool that we use for passive reconnaissance. So let's see. Uh, you can perform many of these use cases you can see here, right? What we are looking out for is, let me see, I need to make this. Uh, okay, let me see what's happening. Okay, so apparently I'm supposed to be able to. Okay, so they changed their interface. Okay, they've changed their interface. Let's see. You still be able to find what we're looking for. Okay, yes, yeah. Yeah, let's do search reports. Let's see. Yes, so this is what we want to look for. Yeah, so this is what we're looking for. It's still by Netcraft, right? Okay, so I want somebody from the class, just give me, please, as much as yes, we're going to stay within the educational scope and context, right? And everything, this is just another disclaimer that everything we are doing is for educational purposes only, right? So just think of something within the educational context. Think of a website that you can give me right now. Anyone, just either unmute your mic or you drop it in the chat box. Just give me a website. Let's check what is the underlying infrastructure and technologies that they are using, right? Anyone in the chat box or in the class.
Okay, you mean any website at all?
Yes, any website. Just give me any website.
Okay, I use onexbet.com.
Okay, let's use oneexpert.com. Okay, let's click on look up. So good, oneexpert.com. We want to check what is underlying for them, right? What is happening when it comes to their infrastructures and technologies. Now, good one. First of all, we see the title, site rank. This is its rank, its description. Now let's look at the network, some things about its network, right? Which is where like the juicy information usually come from. Again, this is passive. And that's why, we can do, or I can allow us to stay within the educational context of this. This is passive. We're not engaging any of their machines. We're not, doing anything, touching any of the infrastructure. We're just passively checking what's happening. So this is the site. I could load this in a new tab, right? And just for us to confirm that we are testing or we are checking the right website, or we're checking the right, underlying infrastructure that pertains to the website that we want. So let's check here. Okay, I think we are on we are testing. Yes, we are getting the reports for the right website. Yes. So that works. Now, next thing we can see is we see their net block owner, which is Cloudflare, which makes sense. It's hosted in the US. Now, another interesting thing here is what we can see what their IP address. Again, remember that what we're doing is what we was doing was still here, still on the passive, right? This is where we are. We're on the passive reconnaissance, right? So let's continue. But like I said, so now you can see that this is actually what we want to test for. So we can close this, but we are checking the report on the right side, right? So that makes sense. So this is now the IP address, right? Now, this is where it gets more interesting, because when you now want to perform the active reconnaissance, you can see what the passive reconnaissance has given us. It has given us an engine, which is what the IPv4 address of one expected call, right? It means there is actually a system with this website, with this IP address rather, that we can actually knock on or try to test for certain things for, right? But let's leave it at that for now. What we can do now is what we can copy these, right, and write it down somewhere. I'll just keep it somewhere. Okay, this is not actually the actual slide. This is just a preview version. But what I was going to do is, okay, maybe instead I'll just spawn up. So again, just like we said, your tactics, your techniques, your procedures, right? This is part of the tactics, the techniques, the procedures that we are going to use, for testing, or maybe we don't have any what's the word now? We don't have any authorization to test for one expert, so we're not going to test. We'll just keep it at what we are doing. So I could paste this IP address here. Now what am I doing? I'm trying to log information. I can just state it here that this is what one expert's domain. Let me specify it. IP domain, right? So I can keep it as this, and then I keep trying to get what actually I keep trying to get for, or get more juicy information, right? So I can see the IPv autonomous systems, and there's also an IPv, or an IP version 6. So what the earlier one stands for is version 4, right? So this is the version 6. So what do I want to do again? I want to log it, right? What am I doing? I'm keeping data, or I'm keeping a log of what I'm doing. I'll say what? I'll say IPv6 domain, right? This one I will say IPv4 domain. So I'll keep on gathering information. Remember, what we are talking about is what? Reconnaissance, right? And we already understood that reconnaissance is what, or passive reconnaissance is focusing on what? Gathering intelligence without interacting directly. You can see what we are doing. So that's what we are doing. We can also use what is known as open source intelligence for this, right? I mean, this is actually one that is very robust, and again, for things like passive reconnaissance, it works perfect. Now let's do the same thing. Now let's come to OSINT, right? Let's do OSINT. Now let's look at OSINT framework. Right. Good. Now we can see OSINT has given us a very, very robust or a more kind of um, elaborate way for us to perform our passive reconnaissance. Let's look at subdomains. Now, again, because we are focusing on a domain, we've used one expert. Although for our next search, I don't want us to use one expert. Let's use something else. Can anyone give us another site that we could use? They're usually vulnerable sites online. Let's see. App for free. Okay, it's not a website, right? Uh, let's see. Cars for free. Okay, Aka for free is also not a website. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for a website that we can, just do our daily or passive reconnaissance on. Let's try it on Aka one. Let's do for Aka one because Aka one is more like although Aka one is a bug bounty programming corporation, right? So you can come here, pick on bug bounty, and again, you should know that everything that we are doing, right, leads to you putting your skills into these types of platforms, right? The knowledge you gain from these classes, you come to platforms like Aka one to come and put those skills into practicability. That's why you want to really, really pay attention and get enough information from what we are doing, right? Okay, so let's come back to Netcraft, our passive recon for the site report on one expert. Now we could also do some other very interesting things. Like let's look at some other things. Let's look at some other things. I've seen something here, but I I don't want to go there first. Let's go. Let's see. Okay, the web trackers, the P2P accelerator. We can see the server side, the underlying infrastructure. We can see the client side, um, their web browser targeting. Okay, so let's see. Okay. Now let's come back to here. Yeah, good. This is the sender policy framework, right? Okay, so that's when it comes to um containing or having informations that are sent via mail. You get to interact with SPFs, right? They are usually the framework that hosts senders policies, right? So this funny thing could be this could be separate from one expert, right? But again, how do we know except we test, right? So but we're not going to be doing some things like I said, we have no authorization or permission from one expert. So even just this is just because we are getting a site report. It's not for malicious intent, right? So we have Aka1 loaded, right? So let's go back to OSINT. Now let's do something interesting. You know what? Let's do um uh, let's make this a little bit real, right? Okay, let's come to usernames. Let's say specific sites, right? Uh, okay, there are specific sites here. Okay, let's check for username search engines. Okay, let's use Sherlock. Let's use Sherlock. Let's see. Let's make it a little bit real. Okay, Sherlock wants us to. Okay, would use. Okay, okay, would use Sherlock on the command line interface. I want some. Let's see name checkup. Let's see name checkup. Again, we can spend the whole day here, right? To be honest, right? We can spend the whole day just trying to perform reconnaissance. We're trying to gather information, right? Let's do something. I know my username, right? So let me type my username here. All right. I have this username. Let me search. Let's see what comes up. Okay, okay. But something came up for YouTube. Let's see what came up for YouTube. Just run search again. I think it's gonna bring me to let's see. Okay. How effective was this tool? That's another thing, when you're working with tools like this, you want to be sure that they're effective, right? You want to be sure that they're actually. So if that was doing some things that are, some of these tools, I'm just trying to test them out, right, to see their effectiveness. I've used some of, I know Sherlock for one does a brilliant job on the command line. I just skipped that. That was only on the command line. Let me see. I'm trying to use instant username search. Let me try it again. Let's see what comes up from here. Okay, so it's saying available so many places. But I know where I am, so I'll just check. Okay, it actually couldn't find me on X, but it could find me on other platform. That's a bit strange. So let me see what Facebook looks like with that. Oh wow, that's interesting. So even on X, where I have this as my username, it's actually isn't finding me in there. Uh, Let me see, can I use, okay, I can use special characters. Well, you can see it's trying to load up a page with, this username. It's a cyber something. You can see it's clearly written right there. Ah, okay, it's actually even unavailable. Okay, so let's then do something else, right? Let's come to domain name. Uh, okay, let's do passive DNS. Um, okay, first off, let's start with Willis Records. Let's start with Willis Record. Let's use who is. Let's work with who is. Who is usually is also a command line interface you can use. So yeah, let's check. Let's do one expert here as well again. Let's do one expert.com as well again. So Mr. Chizoba suggested that we test for certain things on one expert. So that's why we've been using one expert, right? Okay, saying access to this website is restricted. Okay. About the website, access to it is restricted. Okay. But notwithstanding, we could still find some information. You can still see some information, and that's why I'm saying let's do it here so we can compare. So we can compare it with what we found here, right? We can compare it with what we found here. And one of the things we've seen first off is its hosting company seems to be static or the same, right? Which is Cloudflare. I think we can also see Cloudflare here, but there's something interesting here. It's giving us even more deeper domains. Mr. Chizoba, we have to be very careful with what we are doing. This is for educational purposes alone, right? But again, because so just so we can make it real, right? But this is strictly for educational purposes. Now, something interesting again that's I'm finding very interesting is it's giving us some additional information. Like you can see now we have found an email address which is admin@oneexpert.com, which I believe is very functional. So that means, I don't want to say you should go ahead to do this, but social engineering attacks, you could start targeting some of these domains here. But so I mean, just passively you can see that you haven't interacted with any IT infrastructure here, but we're already getting some very useful information, right? That is what is known as what? That is what is known as passive reconnaissance. So let's continue. I think we've done a bit, but I need to be sure. Everything we've done so far, are we clear on it? If you're clear on everything we've done so far, just give me a thumbs up or a reaction, or you can unmute your mic and let me know. Okay, great. Okay, good. So what we've done is who's that? Okay, Mr. Ayedele. Yes, sir, you can unmute your mic, and it seems like you have a question.
Yeah, actually, what I'm about to ask is, are we going to have this the recording of this available so we can go back to it? Because I've been in and out of the session, so I don't want to drag every other person backward. So that's just my ask.
Okay, thank you, sir. Actually, we are live streaming as we speak on YouTube. So if you go on my YouTube page right now, you see that a live streaming is currently on, and it's for this class. So, and we'll have that recurring for the period of this course. It will all be available on the YouTube. So even myself personally, after this class, I'll go back to watch it so that I can also learn one or two from what I've said or things I've done. So yes, you're covered. You're covered. So okay, so passive reconnaissance. Now you get the idea. Active reconnaissance. Now we'll do active reconnaissance, but like I said, at this stage, we are now actively, we are now touching systems like what you can see here, like these IP addresses. You can see where are they? Like these IP addresses, you can see here. We are now we now begin to probe them. We begin to knock them. Some of these emails you're seeing, we begin to test for, how effective are their social engineering or cybersecurity awareness, right? That's when active reconnaissance now comes in. But for now, or for what we've done, is just passive. So we'll do active reconnaissance, just trying to help us understand generally what we're doing. Now, another thing is DNS enumeration. Now, DNS enumeration is actually very sweet. Uh, you might ask why. This is the reason. The DNS on its own stands for the domain name system. Now, what makes it very interesting is if you take a look at the domains that are associated with this website, right? I saw it somewhere. Okay, maybe not on this report. Okay, good. It's here. Now look at it. You can see some domain names that are associated with this particular website, right? Now that is a good one, right? Now look at the subdomains, right? This now makes it more interesting. And I could tell you for free, maybe there could even be some bug bounty programs on any of these domains for you to find vulnerabilities, right? It's possible. There could be, a bounty program on, let's say, id.oneexpert.com, or maybe ien.oneexpert.com, or tn.one. But all these are subdomains, right? What does subdomain mean? Subdomain means these are domains that are subsidiary to the main domain, which is oneexpert.com. So you could have even users.oneexpert.com. You could have, I'm just giving instances. This is not what we are saying, but for you to understand. Now, when it comes to domain name, for instance, this is the hosting provider, right, which is Cloudflare. So definitely you seeing lic.ns.cloudflare.com should not be strange, because they are the one hosting their domain. They're the one hosting the domain of one expected.com. Now, when it comes to this, you need to be very careful because you need to be able to differentiate different domains. And what do I mean by that? Now, look at it. We have domain record types. We have all domains, we have the mail domains, we have the text, we have the ones for CNAME, and then we have for also the SRV. All these are different or varieties of domains that could be associated with a particular domain, right? So for instance, a particular valuable DNS record for adversaries in the TXT record, which can contain SPF. Now, who remembers SPF? Now, we are now seeing that we can actually find TXT record in, or we can find this record, which is the TXT, in domains like the SPF, or we can find it containing SPF, DKIM, or DMARC policies, right? Now, what does that mean? Taking us back to this, remember we looked at the sender policy frameworks there, right? Yeah. So when you see this SPF on the slides, it's saying that a particular variable DNS record for adversaries is the TXT. So in this TXT record, right, it contains SPF, sender policy framework. It contains DKIM or DMARC. All these are associated with mail. Like for instance, if to perform intelligence on a particular mail that I received, I could do that. I want to know how, where, why that message originated, or how it originated, or its origin generally, right? I want to know what is its origin, where is its origin, why is its origin, those types of things, right? So this domain, this DNS record for TXT is actually a juicy one for adversaries, right? So you can see misconfigured or overly permissive policies can reveal email infrastructure. That's it, right? That's it. So I know some of the things that we might be saying right now, you know, uh, may be a bit confusing, right? But just follow me through, right? Okay, so still DNS recon, then we have the WHOIS and the IP geolocation intelligence. Again, remember, right? I brought you to the hosting framework for a reason. You can explore a lot of things from here. This is just our live session. Usually, we want to keep it simple and intact, right? So, and I think if you agree with me, I think we've done a big justice to to learning from the learning material, right? Which is is available on your dashboard, right? And so just for your live session quiz, right? Your access code is recon, right? Your code phrase word is recon. Someone might ask, what does that mean? So when you come here and you want to take your practice exam, it's going to ask you for a code, right? So yeah, so what you type in here is what recon, as I have copied. So I'll submit it, and then you can take your practice exam. Now you see it's opened, right? So that's it. So that's why that code is always going to be on your learning material. You use it for this purpose I just showed, right? Now, okay, so we've looked at these pages, we've looked at the learning material. I said again, you can please drop your discussion. For those of you that are enrolled in this course, please drop your discussions. Your peers will respond to them, before the following week begins. You also have your routine assignments, right, that you want to follow through and do as well. But your written assignment is a follow-up assignment to your lab, which I'm going to open up right now. And when you open up your lab assignments, you will see some things that I'm going to explain to you right now. Right? Like I said, I'm going to walk your hands, but I will not spoon feed you, but I will walk you. I will hold your hands, guide you through. Because doing it yourself is where the learning really is, and that's how you master this profession. So for this particular course on offensive security and adversary simulation, we're going to be interacting with three major labs: the killer coder, port swigger, and okay, I basically just those two. To be honest, I thought this was another of the courses that I've built where we have immersive labs and cyber million, but no, this is just going to be two labs integrated: port swigger and killer coder. Port swigger and killer coder. Now, for this lab, what you need to do, number one, is you need to download the lab guide. You can see it right here. Every week you will always find your lab guide. It's there, even in week 2. So let me show you for your module 2. Okay, I'm here. Okay, since I'm in this view, I will just maintain this view and guide you through module 1. When we get to module 2, I will do the same. So every week you want to always take a look at your lab guide. So I will just preview this. So we look at the lab guide together. So let's just give it some time. Okay, yeah. So our lab guide is here. Now, this lab guide, as you can see, this is the student's lab guide. This follows the certified ethical hacking lab or format for reconnaissance, right? So I'll make me to zoom in a bit so that we can all read what is there. Good. Okay, I think this is fine. So on your lab guide, you have lab scenarios, right, that you're expected to read. You perform certain reconnaissance, right? Like I said, class, everything that I asked you to do, I have done it. So this lab that you're looking at right here, I've done it. I'm not just saying I've done it to make you feel like, oh, is the instructor. No, I'm going to show you my own solution so that you can use it to also guide yourself. Now, whereas some of the things you have to do requires you to have a PC, like for instance, you need a Windows 10 for you to do this one. And basically, at this stage of footprinting and reconnaissance, you might not be doing anything so technical. But here's the catch. When you have to do anything that requires the command line, if you have to do anything that requires, again, like your Windows 10 PC, while you go through this lab guide, what I want you to do is use your personal system. For instance, if you look at this lab, this is a Chrome browser. So within the Chrome browser, you follow this, you follow the instructions, right? So you can see, for instance, let's do this lab. Now it's saying, okay, let's start from the beginning, right? Turn on your Windows 10, log in with this password and username. Again, all disclaimer, or this is a disclaimer. This material is, generated by EC Council University, or of course, you're studying this course, for you to pursue future endeavors in even attaining the certification. So I can assure you, if you follow everything, all the instructions that Mr. AY, myself, I give to you for the period of the next 9 weeks, right? Because we have module 1 to module 9. I can assure you that at the 10th week, you can attempt the CEH practical exam or the CEH exam. And of course, you would have gained a lot of knowledge. So let's go back. It's saying if the default browser does not pop up. Okay, so this is Firefox, actually not Chrome. Okay, so now let's go to a new browser, right? Okay, permit me to just do this a bit so that I can see what is happening here. Okay, good, right. So it's saying, let me just get, let's see. Yeah, we can do this from here. Let me see. Okay, I can create a new tab. I didn't want to go away from that tab. But let me just, you know, some of the OGs that are in this class will know my screen is bad. That's why I have to resize the window. So you might, not see me use this section of the screen. If you can see my mouse hovering over this section, it's actually bad. I can't see that section on my screen. I don't know if you understand. My screen is broken, so I have to make the window into this proportion so that I can see, what is happening. Only a few OGs that are with me would understand that. Yeah. Okay. So, but I hope you are still following and getting what I'm doing, right? So let's look at this. Or maybe I should. Okay, this is screen two. Maybe I should switch to screen one so that I can have a full screen. Or let me ask the class. Uh, can we all see? Is it clear enough? And give me an emoji or you unmute your mic. Just let me be sure. Can we all see the class? Can we all see the my screen properly? Okay, can anyone hear me in the
Yes,
class? Am I
I
audible?
you. You.
Okay, and you can see my screen properly, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, good. So let's proceed then. Uh, the first thing we want to do is already new. Okay, I created this new tab, so I'll just bring it out. Should I bring it out? Yes, let me bring it out so I can switch between them easily. Good. So I can do this now. Where's the other one? Yes. Okay, let's do this. Now we are asked to do something that is known as Google docking. It's called advanced Google hacking for password files, this particular one, right? But generally, it's called the Google docking, right? So you can see it here, gathering information using advanced Google hacking techniques, right? Remember, performing footprinting and reconnaissance is usually the first step. So what are we expected to do? So let's check. So we have been asked to type the entitled password site, um, www.ecouncil.org, and then press enter. And then this would actually search for. Okay, now watch the magic that this does. Those who are familiar with Google Docking understands this. If you're not, it's simple, pretty much simple, right? So let me play with Google. Then right here, I'll do title. Right, I'll say site. Let me check this out again. www.ecouncil.org. Okay. New title. Password site. So I'm specifying the site now. I want it to fetch. Now that's good. Let me. When we say Google docking, what you're doing is you're trying to dock out certain web pages. Do you understand? You're trying to dock out certain web pages. So the site is what EC Council. Good. Oh, right. You can insert any site here, right? So I'll still enter. Let's see the result I get. Now you can see that it has docked out all the pages on EC Council as a site that contains the word password, right? So let me do something else. Let's say in title, let's say admin, right? Let's say admin. Look at what happens. Watch the magic. Okay, for this, you can see there's actually none you can find for admin. Okay, we've done for password. Somebody should give me something for us to search for. Let's say administrator, right? It's administrator. Good. You can see we got something for administrator. Everything that has to do with administrator is what is being fed to us. That's what is called, right? So I'll use this example that Mr. Chizoba gave us. I'll say one expert on com, right? Okay, so for that we did not get any response. I would modify these to say password. Now you can see I'm getting something, right? Password recovery. Now it's you can see now I only want things that are specific to this title. That is how Google Docking works, right? I can also do the same for checking for PDF files, right? Now, what is the prompt for that? And again, look at there is a lot we can do with cache. We can go all in URL. We can go all in title. We can go in anchor, all in anchor. We can go link. So let's go cache for this because you need password to be stored. Um, so let's say cache. Let's see. Now you can see we're actually getting, we're actually seeing Google trying to get some additional verification, right, for what we are doing. Good. Now we've gotten something. You can see security.txt. This is a very interesting one. I'm not going to open some of these things because I'm trying to keep it all, within the education context. I hope what I'm saying is making sense to the class, right? I'm only making it real for you, right? So it doesn't look like Mr. AY is just doing what is on the lab guide. I'm making it real for you, but for your assignment, please follow the instructions that you have on your lab guide and the lab instructions as well. So I hope this makes sense. You can see I don't know what might be inside here, security.txt, but obviously it looks like something. You can see what is there's an overview here saying gaining access to another user's account, blah blah blah. Anyways, I will not open that. But if you feel the need to do what I'm doing, you can perform the same thing as well. Okay, so now we proceed to task 2, right? It's asking us to gather information from video search engines. So the same process, right? So I expect you to do the same thing, right? You come on, follow this lab guide. These are your lab guides and perform the labs. This is what sums up your lab assignments. I want to see a few pictures and a few activities or exercise that you carried out. That is how I know that you actually did your own work. Look at the netcrafts that I used for the passive reconnaissance, right? You can see we got a site report on that. So it goes on and on. It goes on and on. Okay, there's also the PQ. There's the PQ. Let's see if we can do something on PQ. PQ.com. Let's see. Let's see if we can do something in PQ.com. So I'm trying to do something PQ. Let's see if we can do something in PQ. Why the site gets spawned off. Let's look at other things that are in your lab. So it's pretty much easy, right? So good. Now this is the part I was waiting for. Now when you get to the task that entails you to use a system or a command line interface, like for the one you can see here, this is Parrot. Yeah, this is Parrot. This is what I expect or I want you to do. This is still coming up. Now, this is what I want you to do. Anyways, let me just go through it, look at it. Okay, then we have Tor browser and some other things. Now, again, please feel free to reach out to me with this assignment. Right now, I would spawn up. So this is the lab guide we've looked at, right? The next thing I want to do now is to show you the next platform, which is the Killer Coders platform. So this is where I would want you to come and do anything that pertains to command line interface, right? You can easily spawn up a machine here, and so again, all shout out to Killer Coder. They are integrated into our platform to teach some of the courses that I build. Okay, so while we wait for this thing, you know what? Let's test with something. Let's test with Bola. Let's see. Okay, we still have this coming up, yeah? Do you have anything yet? Okay, yeah, I think we have a lot of details, right? One that I want to interest us in most is this one because it looks like somebody that we all know, right? That we are all familiar with, right? You can see possible relatives, Abibat. Is anyone thinking what I'm thinking? Is anybody thinking what I'm thinking? But you can see the reconnaissance that we are. Okay, someone is laughing. Okay, sorry about that. Right. Okay, so I think that's also Mr. Ayodele was laughing. I get right, but anyways, you know why I did this, right? I did this intentionally so you can see some things, or some way we do, reconnaissance. Again, this is just one of. In fact, this is not my main tool. And let me just even disclose this to the class. I specialize with threat intelligence, right? So I use a lot of advanced tools. Some of those tools you would maybe we would use or engage with them, during the course of this course. But I can tell you for free that how you see DSS, maybe EFCC, maybe Interpol, how they trace people all the way from the US to Nigeria, or even within Nigeria, right? You know, these are some of the ways, right? Some of those things are things that I also engage on, tracking, even down to Bitcoin wallet, right? I've done some, forensics on that before, intelligence gathering down to Bitcoin. So if you know someone who was probably, let's not go there, right? This class is not for advertising my skills or any of that, but I'm just trying to expose you to certain things. I'm trying to change your mindset. I'm trying to make you have a different sight, right, for this field, right? Do things ethically, do things legally, and you would enjoy it. You would find things, better. So again, interestingly, we've even gotten some familiar faces, right? That makes sense. I didn't even come down to this part, but that makes sense. Okay, so enough of that. Let's go to Killer Coda. This is the platform I said I want you to be familiar with because you can use it to spawn up your lab, right? Please, can we all still hear me? If you can hear me, please just maybe unmute your mic. Let me know.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay. My system kind of froze, so let me just give it some time. Can you see my screen as well?
No, your screen is
Okay, I
black.
think it's back. Okay, how about now? You should be able to see it now. Okay, so it's back up. Okay, okay, good. So okay, killer coda is still coming up. This might be due to this is how I want you to go through your lab assignments, right? I want you to, if you have anything to do that pertains to Windows, please use your own personal PC. Although you can feel free anytime to communicate in the chat, you can confirm some things because there are some software you might need to download. If you're downloading it on your bare metal, which is your own PC, right, you need to be very careful. So if it has to do with you downloading an additional software, not like you just come into your browser, please always ask me or just try to, put me in the know so that I can guide you. Okay, this application will not be harmful because trust me, you could download something that will give a backdoor access to, an intruder, right? And you don't want that. So always confirm with me. But if it's something that, okay, you just need to use your command line or come to your browser like I did with PQ and maybe other Google docking techniques, please use your own personal system. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so Killer Coda is not up yet, but I hope it comes up before the end of this class so I can show you what to do with that. Okay, that fits into it. Please, can someone help me? I usually get these things usually. I don't know what am I supposed to do now? Can anyone help me? It's saying click all the object that fits inside the cell. Oh, okay. Now I get it. Sorry, class. Okay. In that case, let's proceed then. So now the final or another platform that I have here to introduce to you, everyone. Again, I wouldn't do this every week. I'm doing this first week because of course we are just getting into the course, right? So you should get familiar. Use this week to ask me any questions pertaining familiarity with our LMS dashboard and also the integrated platforms, right? Okay. Yeah, so one of the things you're also meant to do for this week is to perform a recon using the API testing lab on PortSwigger. What am I doing? I'm trying to prepare your practicability skills. Those of us that are here that have taken some of our courses like in SOC, GRC, or the fundamentals, you would have done some practical skills that if you were interviewed today in that line, I believe you know what to say. Now, the same thing applies to this course. I'm not just loading you with labs just for the sake of it or to show that I have a lot of PDF or fab. No, I'm doing this so that you put your knowledge into practicability. That is what fetches you money or hands you money or you that's where you get the reward. So for this, you use the port trigger. I think it's still coming up here, and then you work on the API testing. Now the API testing also focuses on reconnaissance. Focuses on reconnaissance. You can see right here API recon. So let me just go back. So like I said, some of these things that I ask you to come to, like this one, I have also, completed some labs. I'm doing the labs or doing them again so that I can walk you through in case you find any difficulty with these things, right? And again, this is where still in the early stages, so you can start getting a peak of or an understanding of what subsequent classes would look like. Again, this is not a beginner's class. Okay, so sorry about that. I'll just try to go back to API Recon. Now, for you to, someone might ask, how did we get to you know hot Swigger just right now? Now, the essence of integrating these platforms are we keep our curriculum as modern as possible, as modern as possible. That means it's as updated as possible. So many of us, you know, should be familiar with APIs, which are application programming interfaces, right? That we use in calling or interacting with endpoints, and a lot of programmer or DevOps teams out there right now would, definitely know or find out or know, understand how they do work around these APIs, right? Now, as a security professional, for some of the infrastructures that you might engage with, they could be calling certain APIs from, maybe an endpoint. You want to understand how to perform reconnaissance against such types of machines or perform reconnaissance at such types of machines, right? So where do you start from? You need to understand from the very foundation what exactly is API. Like I've said, right? These are like, uh, 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 um, um, they're like how do you put it now? They are more like an an endpoint where you fetch resource from. It's like you having AWS, you have Dockers, buckets. The buckets is like storage, right? Or where you can, So an API is one of those endpoints where you pull out information from. Now let's look at one of these that could actually be interesting. I'm just going to go back. Right. Okay, good. So let me explain what this is. Right. Now, like I've said, I've explained what API is just in a nutshell, but you can go back to read about it. I would use some of the information we have here to also buttress my point. Now, take for example, if you find a website or you find a link or URL such as this, what does it tell you? It means that there is a call to get certain information from where? From the API directory and what? And the books directory. I hope that makes sense. So it means that the API endpoint for this request is actually API what? Books, which means this will be interacting with the API to retrieve a list of books from its library, right? Another API endpoint might be, for example, books/mystery, which will have or retrieve a list of what? Mystery books. So it's just it's what? It's calling for certain information from a particular library. Now, some of these things, you might still need to maybe go do some. I might just be talking from an holistic view. You can research, do further reading on them, and ask me your questions. Now, let me show you one example. Let me just do something very real quick so that you see something. Now, you want to always be sure that these calls are performing their intended actions, right? Which means there are no vulnerability that could maybe alter certain information that is being fetched, right? Now, again, API documentation is really publicly available, right? Particularly if the API is intended for the use of external developers. So if this is the case, always start your recon by reviewing the documentation. So there are ways you can actually review documentation of APIs. Right now, I'll get to that very shortly so you understand something. But just even before that, another thing you need to note or understand is I call them HTTP request methods. right? You need to understand what these request methods are, right? So for instance, you can see HTTP right here on my screen, right? HTTPS, which means this site that I'm interacting with is what is secure, right? So sorry class, we started a bit late, so we might actually extend our closing time a bit, maybe by 30 minutes, right? I hope that's fine. Is that fine? If that's fine with you, just give me a thumbs up. Let me be sure. Okay, great, great. Thank you. Okay, so it's interacting with this site, meaning that it's the HTTPS shows to me that the site is what is secure, right? Now, for various communication between a client and a server, there are certain category of data that is being sent. For instance, the get means, okay, get something from the server. We also have post, right, which is posting. We also have we have patch, we have options. Let me see. We have some of okay, we have put, we have add, we have connect, we have delete. All these are different what? All these are different methods, right? HTTP methods. Now let's do something very interesting. But with that knowledge, right? Let's look at something on PodSwigger. So even if API documentation isn't openly available, you may still be able to access it by browsing applications that use the API. Many of the websites that you see today, they interact with APIs, right? A lot of call and integrations that are interacting with certain APIs. And sometimes you find these APIs are having their endpoints are documented in either HTML or JSON format. So this is either JavaScript or HTML, which is a hypertext markup language. Yes, I think that's what that stands for. So for instance, you can see it's saying if you identify an endpoint for a resource, make sure you investigate the base path. For example, you identify the resource endpoints, API, Swagger version 1, users 1 to 3. Then you should investigate the following paths, right? So what did we do here? We first of all removed the 1, 2, 3 users path. We left it with only the V1. Then we removed the V1, we left it to just what? Swagger. Then we removed the Swagger and then we left it to just API, investigating each part so that we can find what? Documentation that could be useful to us, either for offensive or for defensive purposes. Either for offensive or for defensive purposes. Now, some of the methods that we do or we can test for is the get method. And you can see it's stated here what the get method will do, right? We also have the add method. We have the post method, put, delete. But some might be saying, Mr. AY, how does this concern what we are doing? Now let's look at okay, again, there's another documentation. Okay, let's look at this lab, for instance, right? This lab will actually break down some things that we are explaining, right? And this will be one of the labs I will do, and I will expect you to complete this and submit as part of your lab work in your lab assignments, right? How do I access this? Okay, let me do this through Bob Suits. Let me do this through Bob Suits, right? Okay. Let's see. Okay, okay, I think I had a page open. Okay, so this is it, right? Let me. Okay. Let's see. Now, I want your focus to be. I want your focus now to be on these two tabs that I'm going to be working with. so you understand certain things, right? Now look at, now you can see you can see some things that are happening right behind the scenes, right? So I will just okay, since I've opened this already, now let me show you something very interesting. Right. Again, these are the interactions. This is Bob Suite. Pardon me, I haven't. So this is Bob Suite. It's usually like a proxy. We use it for a lot of things, investigations. We use it to also intercept traffic. We also use it to test. A lot of bug bounty, programmers use this tool as well. So it's actually very useful. So understanding it is key. Now, what I want to do now is I want to understand the underlying infrastructure of these particular websites. Now, it could be for any website. Just to show you what I'm talking about, let me come to this new lab and I will just do oneexpert.com. And when I say enter, go, now you can see, notice what is happening here. It's getting some information, right? Okay, it's getting some information. Okay, good. It's loading up certain things. Okay. Now, notice the method that you see here the most. Now, most of or more often than not, you get to see the get and the post method, right? Most often than not, you get to see the get and the post method. What this means is they are definitely interacting client server, right? Getting certain, you can see, for instance, right here, let me do something. Let me check if I can see anything that has API. Yes, I think I just did. Good. Now this is one. I can see API here, right? Yes, that's it. So you can see there's a directory listing of BFF API config group. This is actually, a call that is being made, by these hosts, which is oneexpert.ng, calling for certain information, right? But like I said, because I'm not going to keep this thing on, on that purpose. I will keep it rather, let's stay within the educational, because from there we'll start tampering with some things and I don't want us to do that. So let me take it. I'm just going to clear this history. I already showed you what I wanted to show you from there. I will come back to what we are meant to do here. So let me just refresh this page, right? Now you can see some things are happening here already, right? So you can see it's getting images from something. And do we actually have an API call here? Yes, we do have one here. Okay, so I have another one here, right? Uh, okay, so this actually not load the page that I wanted it to load. So I would click on this. Uh, Let me stop this because that's not the lab. Uh, okay. This is actually, getting some information. So while we have that, coming up, okay, it's already up, right? Let me just make something clear again to us. Now, take a look at these sections: host, method, URL. When you see this in these parameters, edited, status code. Status code, very important. Sometimes you get to see 404 on your website, right? You understand what that means? Not found, right? Sometimes when you get 200, it means everything is working fine. 302 has its own signature as well. So on and on and on like that. So all these parameters are useful. But let's stick to what we are doing. Now let's look at the lab, right? Let's look at the lab's description so that we have an objective of why we are conducting this lab. So we want to find the exposed API documentation and delete this user Carlos from it. So now there is an API call in this lab, and they are asking us to, find the API documentation for this lab and delete a username or this user Carlos from the library of that API. Now they are saying we can log in using this. Okay, so this is our username and password to log in to that API, right? So let's now see to log into the Portswigger's lab. Okay, so let's go back to this. Okay, so I'm just going to clear this again. Good. Then I will refresh this. Let's start from there. Let's refresh this to see what happens behind the scenes when this page loads. So what you're seeing here is just the activity when a page loads. You saw when I loaded for one expert, you saw a lot of information. Now the information will be a bit limited because we're just working within a lab environment that is for testing purposes only. But what's the interesting thing that we can see here, right? We can see the get call, get post, get these types of messages popping in, right? Let's go to my account. Okay, now it's asking us to log in, right? Let me just clear this again because I want fresh. I want fresh. Remember, the lab already told us what our username and password will be. It's right there, right? Rina Peter. So this is username. This is password. So let's put that there. Something already came up here. I'm just going to keep clearing this because I want a clean page. Then I will type Rina here. I'll put Peter here. I'll say login, right? So I should get some activities here. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense now. Now, if I come here, you can see some things are actually happening here. First thing that you see is I tried to log in. So we're actually correct that we are seeing a login here, right? A login capture right here, right? And of course, some of the things that are also, here you can see what it attempted to, the username it attempted, or things like that, right? What else? There's a get page for the my account, right? And some other very, so let's still do something. Let me try to update this and say, okay, let me use this that I already have here, sentinelhub@app.com. Let me update my mail. Okay, now first thing you see is this reflected here immediately. This wasn't what was here before, but I've been able to update it to this, right? Let's see if that activity was actually logged anywhere here. Yes, we can see it right here, right? So if I click on this, good, I can already see it, right? So what happened? You can see the change, right? This is the only, because of that update I made, this is the only patch method you can see in this capture. Every other capture is the get and the post. But the moment I updated my mail, I got a patch method. Are we all following? Are we all following? Let me be sure we are all following so that it's not me just teaching myself. Okay, Mr. Quadri is good. Mr. Chizoba, okay, Mr. Chizoba is good. Mr. Kayode, Mr. Ayodele. Okay, we're good. Now, you can see an API call was actually made because I needed to update my mail, right? So it actually updated and it gave that. You can see the response right here. You can see Cyber Sentinel Hub right here, which was the response which I can now I see now visually right here, right? So, and that's the other thing I'm trying to bring out is you can see that is the only method that had the word patch. So let's see what we can do here. So that means I can actually send this. I can send this to repeater and then try to do some modifications. So I'll send it again and see the response. Okay, so you can see I still have the response here, which is good, by the way. So what else can I do? Let me try to now remember. You remember in the documentation we saw something with the directory that let me show you. We saw something with the directory like this. That if we see something like this, if we see something like, let's say, slash API slash user slash winner, right? This is what we have here. We can try to test for what? For API slash API slash user, right? To see if we can get some information, right? Then we can also still try to do, let's say for API, right? Let's still try to do for API, right? So let's now try this and see. Let's try what I just wrote here, right? Let's try it now and see what the kind of responses that we get, right? So the first thing I will do is I will remove these winner here, and then I will try to send this and see what response we get. Okay, now you can see we have a change, right? You can see it's now saying malformed URL, right? So that means there's an error. Apparently that would not even work if we try to do it. Like, remember what we are doing now is we are trying to, we are doing some things technically, modifying the web page behind the scenes. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense. And for instance, okay, someone might want to confirm something with me, right? Look at this portion. Let's go back to proxy. Now look at this portion. Uh, let's look at this portion on, say, the login. Let's see my account. Okay. Let's go back to API. Okay. Let's see. Okay, I can still see some sites information is still coming into this capture, but I want to stick to I want to stick to this one. Okay, good. So let's go back to repeater. Right now, look at this. Once we sent it, we got once I removed the winner, right, we got, of course, an error message, right? Now let's look at something. If I try to inspect this page, one second first. Okay, class, I want to ask, can we do a 5 to 10 minutes break? I don't think we've taken break since we started class, and I think we've covered, quite some things. Can we take a 5 to 10 minutes break? Is that fine? Is that fine? Okay, good. So let's do a 5 to 10 minutes break, then we'll get back after 5 to 10 minutes. All right. Welcome back. I think that's almost 5 minutes. So let's continue. Okay. So like I said, right, once I did that, you could see I was trying to inspect this page as well. So for instance, if I come to say this one now, let's look at this field for the email, right? It should contain certain things. Now this is the form for it here. What can we see in there? Right. Let me see. Okay. Right. So can you see the API/user? Can you see it written there? So you can that helps you, or that gives you an hint to what we want to do. That means we can actually check for or try to find a vulnerability for API/user. Look at it right here. And you can see it's what is related to if anytime you can see it on the form.login. You can see the form.login showing anytime I click on it, right? You can see it. So that means let's come back to Bob suit. That means something here can be juicy, right? So like I did this first, right? I think we got some error. Okay, let's see. Yes, it says malformed URL, right? So let's do again. Let's do for let me do this one. See, okay, we still have that. So let's do for API error not found. Actually, we even having the 404 not found. Okay, now let's do this. Let's change the HTTP request method to get, right? Let's send it. We still have these here, right? Probably might not need this. Okay, let me send this again. Okay, this actually did work, but you can see 200. Okay, that's telling you that that loaded successfully, right? Let's now remove this, right? Let's send it. Okay, now we're having malformed URL again. Let's do this. We're still having a malformed URL. Uh, let's try to do this and see. Okay, now we're getting something. Now, I don't know, did anybody notice that we got something different now? Let me expand this. So you can see how we are testing for this, right? Let's see. So now we got something here. Let me render this and see. Good. Good. You can see this. So what we are getting here is the API documentation, right? That should make sense. We're getting the API documentation. So that means we can use the get method, we can use the delete method, and we can use the patch method. And what this lab said was for us to delete the user Carlos. So if this worked, that means we can come back here and say user and then say Carlos. Let's send this and see. Yes, now we got something very interesting. Can you see? Now we got the username and the email for Carlos. Now you can see how we are, and this is actually a bug, right? This is actually a bug. So on a good day, all right, on a good day, you find this type of bug on a website, you can report it, right? as part of your pen testing duties, or uh you are as an offensive security practitioner. But I mean, wearing the ethical hacking hat, which should be your white hat, right? You can report this. So, and what did he ask us to do? He said we should delete it, right? He said let's delete. So let's try to use that. Remember, we found delete as part of its API documentation. So I can change that and then send it. Let's see, user deleted successfully. So now you see how we have been able to successfully delete a user from a library just by exploiting the API documentation or the vulnerabilities regarding API. So that's pretty much what you need to do. Well, if you come back here, I think I've done this, and that's why if I try to refresh this, it should still give me the status of that has been solved, right? So yes, that has been solved. So again, this is what I expect you, or how I our work for offensive security and adversary simulation would be. So complete the API section, right? I think there's still that maybe 2 or 3 more labs. In case you need solutions, you can always come to the solution. I mean, you could, from what we've done, you could attempt it right without the solution, or you can get a guide. So now everything you've seen just gives you an idea of what we are going to be learning, and I hope you've actually learned something from that, right, throughout the course of this program, uh, offensive security and adversary simulation, right? Okay, so to round up for today, because we're almost calling it a day. So to round up for these, let me go back to killer coda. Yeah, okay, so now you can see we now have killer coda. It's trying to reconnect, but this is a Linux machine, right? That you can, let me see, can I write anything? Okay, still reconnecting. Okay, this is the Linux machine that you can practice your lab from your lab guide on, right? So essentially what I need you to do is use the lab guide, get me, your lab report on how you performed footprinting and reconnaissance. And then I want to also see in your lab report, your activities on the API testing ports with the academy. Okay, very important, please. Formatting and documentation is what sets you apart in this field. People who you see thrive and are successful in their field today, especially in cybersecurity and fields that are maybe technical or even non-technical, cybersecurity generally, it's because of some of the soft skills that they built themselves with, and not just focusing on the technical skills, how to hack. No, you also need to document and show. So I have already a template that is here for you to follow. Some of the OGs that are here who have taken previous courses will already understand these templates. It's very important. This is what makes me look at what you've done and I say, oh, this person knew what they were doing. They've taken the right steps. So you screenshot here, and then you document your observations here. It's as simple as that. This is how I know you've done your work. So that is that. Let me see. Any other thing that I haven't talked about? Okay, I think the final thing I want to while we prepare to round it up, I want us to close the class before 3 o'clock. Finally is your GitHub repository. So if you right, I told you there's nothing I'm asking you to do that I haven't done, right? If you click on this GitHub repository, it takes you directly to my GitHub repository, which could also serve as a guide for you, right? So if you click on this, right? You will see some of the things like on this lab. This is my repository on the lab, right? And some of the things that the tools that I used, I documented them right here, so you can take advantage of them. Now you can see some of I also added some pictures right here for you to see. If I click on this one, I think it will take us to the OSINTs, which we also did in class. Many of them I didn't do today in class because some of these things took time, a lot of time, just to complete the labs and gather the knowledge from there. So if we want to do the same thing today's class, it probably take us about 6 hours thereabout, right? So I don't think any of us has that time for that today. But good thing this doesn't. Okay, so you can see it, right? So this is again the same thing applies for every other one. If you click on then, so just come here, and in case you get stuck, this could also help you. Okay, this was how Mr. AY did it, So my GitHub repository is there. Okay, so this is Showdown.io, also a good tool for pass. Covered basically everything I needed to understand for this. Like I said, I will just show you one more time. There is that you gain, and then today we've completed the introduction to XP in module 2, where we'll be discussing, you will not see it, but it's here available, and then so on and so forth. And for the next 9 weeks, all this being said, any question before we call it a day? I'll also try to go on any question from anyone. Any question? Any question? No one is responding. Are we saying we understood everything that we did today? Hello, class. Can anyone hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm with you.
Oh,
Can you
okay.
hear me?
Okay, so do you have any questions? I can hear you loud and clear.
Not
Any
really,
questions,
but
please?
no, I'm still trying to process all the information I've just gathered. You understand? Because it's
Oh,
somehow
okay,
something
okay,
very new to me. So I'm still trying to go through them and
okay.
one at a time.
Mm,
Now I don't really have.
that makes sense. All right, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right, no problem. So I'll just assume that there are no questions. I'll stop streaming now. Okay, yeah. So I've stopped streaming. So next week, same time, same place.